Corporal punishment. Now, anyone raised as a Jehovah's Witness will most likely have endured being hit or have watched and heard children being taken to the back room of the Kingdom Hall for punishment. When questioned at the Royal Commission, governing body member Jeffrey Jackson stated that Watchtower does not endorse corporal punishment, that is, physical punishment such as spanking a child. This exchange was surprising in light of ongoing Watchtower quotes to the contrary. Now, first off, I want to state that I am totally against corporal punishment for children and any form of physical violence against women and children. Watchtower has always advocated corporal punishment, stating that spanking is for the good of the child. As a quote in this book, Making Your Family Life Happy, says, "A spanking may be a lifesaver to a child, for God's word says, do not hold back discipline from the mere boy. In case you beat him with the rod, he will not die. With the rod you yourself should beat him, that you may deliver his very soul from Sheol, the grave itself. Again, foolishness is tied up with the heart of a boy. The rod of discipline is what will remove it from him. If parents hold their children's life interest dear to them, they will not weakly or carelessly let disciplinary action slip from their hands. Love will motivate them to take action wisely and fairly when it is needed." Now, this is still the case, but the statements that follow show how the Watchtower has changed its language on the subject during the 1990s, as more nations and countries have passed laws against physical abuse of minors. They base their advice on the following scripture in the book of Proverbs, amongst others. Proverbs 29 verse 15 says, "The rod and the reproof impart wisdom, but a child left unrestrained brings shame on his mother." Proverbs 22 verse 15, "Foolishness is bound up in the heart of a boy, but the rod of discipline will remove it far from him." And then Proverbs 23 verse 13 and 14 says, "Do not hold back discipline from a boy. If you strike him with the rod, he will not die. With the rod, you should strike him in order to save him from the grave." The Watchtower of May the 1st has this quote, "The Bible is clear that discipline includes good teaching and example, but does it exclude spanking? No, for Proverbs 23 verse 13 says, 'Do not hold back discipline from the mere boy. In case you beat him with a rod or hand, he will not die.'" That comes from a Watchtower in 1979. A 2014 Watchtower article on discipline avoids the passages from Proverbs relating to the rod, where it says, "Discipline primarily relates to instruction, education, and correction. It is never connected with abuse or cruelty." Ironically, the article continues on page 12 with a statement from Malachi 3 verse 6, "I am Jehovah, I do not change," in a piece that avoids bringing up how the Bible has been used to justify killing children by stoning them and whipping them with a rod. Now, whilst articles such as in the 1973 Awake specifically direct a parent to hit their children, quotes since the 1990s focus on the rod of discipline, meaning authority and guidance. Now, the Royal Commission transcript is telling because Jeffrey Jackson lied regarding the Watchtower teaching on corporal punishment, despite the fact that Watchtower has continued to advocate using physical punishment as part of the rod of discipline in past years.
What's the discipline of Jehovah?
So, Your Honour, the original language word there, discipline, it indicates a process of teaching, educating, making a disciple.
Well, from that reference in Ephesians, your Bible takes us back to Proverbs chapter 13, verse 24.
Proverbs 13:24, yes.
And the exact quote is, "Whoever holds back his rod hates his son." What does that mean?
So, Your Honour, you'll notice there's an asterisk there on the term rod, and you see the footnote, discipline or punishment. So, in the application of this, the term rod is used as a symbol or a metaphor to indicate the authority to give some punishment. For example, in a modern day setting, my father could say to me, I don't go to the movies because I had broken some of the rules of the home.
So it's not about inflicting corporal punishment then?
It absolutely is not about inflicting corporal punishment.
It would have been when first written, wouldn't it?
How people applied it back then at that time, of course, is open to question.
Well, what you're telling me, as I understand it, is that your religion, your church, is prepared to interpret the Bible having regard to contemporary social attitudes and standards. Is that right?
Obviously, Your Honour, we need to take that into consideration, but the primary responsibility we have is to think, what does Jehovah God mean by this? And we look at other scriptures. One of the problems that many folk have when they read the Bible is they take one verse and they assume it means something out of context or not in reference to other scriptures. So for our understanding, Jehovah has said that children should be raised in a loving environment. Jesus was raised in such an environment.
This was a misleading portrayal of the Watchtower's position on corporal punishment. Watchtower blames a cited rise in child delinquency on the recommendation of authorities against physical discipline. As it states here, worldly authorities on rearing children frequently say, no, the child should never be spanked. Avoid frustrating the child by using such strong measures to change his natural inclinations. A New York Times editorial, April the 5th, 1972, said, spare the rod and spoil the child is a wrong-headed adage that continues to get approving nods from self-appointed upholders of the old virtues. It is difficult to fathom why the administration of premeditated, painful punishment by a bigger and stronger person could instill anything other than the belief that force triumphs. But is this view correct? Is it a mistake to use physical punishment for the purpose of correcting a child's wrong course of conduct? It goes on to say, the rejection by the world of such disciplinary training is largely responsible for the tremendous increase of juvenile delinquency and the resulting trouble and shame it has brought to parents. That comes from the Watchtower 1973, September the 15th. Now, some people subscribe to the myth that beating a child is necessary to instill respect in them and that children who are not hit grow up to be delinquents. The mistake here is equating correlation with causation. Not due to a lack of physical violence, but rather due to a general lack of loving care and discipline in its many permissible forms. Permissive parenting can result in delinquency. Even though some parents agree that hitting an adult is assault, they strongly believe that hitting a child is an essential component of discipline. When does violence transition from being tolerated to being wrong? What age do individuals who believe a backhand across a child's face is occasionally essential decide to stop administering such training? When a youngster reaches puberty, when they leave school, or perhaps when they are old enough to defend themselves physically or legally? Some parents I know are vocal against domestic violence towards a spouse, yet scream at and beat their children. How do they reconcile that the domestic violence they experienced was terrifying, controlling, and left permanent emotional damage, yet then perpetuate such actions upon their even more defenseless and vulnerable children? Violence breeds violence. When a parent resorts to violence to force their child to obey, they teach their children that violence is an acceptable method of obtaining one's own way. It's no surprise that corporal punishment is associated with increased child aggression, increased child delinquent and antisocial behavior, increased risk of being a victim of physical abuse, and increased risk of being a victim of physical adult aggression, increased adult criminal and antisocial behavior, decreased adult mental health, and increased risk of abusing their own child or spouse.